welcome Philip of the Bay Tree, Philip George. This is our first podcast we've ever done, and we were thinking it would be great to have a local business, local to us in Haywards Heath, somebody who's been established around a time, built the business, it's been successful, probably been through the ups and downs, and we were coming up with this idea, let's just give podcasting a go. And at the time, I think Liam, one of my colleagues, was working with you. I think he was on the new lease with the council. So he's like, yeah, what about Philip? Yeah, coffee shop. Yeah, great idea. Okay. And myself, I worked a lot in hospitality and restaurants and cafes and pubs when I was younger. And despite not thinking that was something I'd ever do, I look back on that quite fondly and think, oh yeah, maybe one day it'd be quite fun to run something like a cafe. So it'd be great to hear your background, your story, and the ins and outs of what it's been like growing, developing, and staying in business, as it were. So yeah, first of all, what's the history? When did the Bay Tree? Obviously, people won't know, but the Bay Tree is a very popular cafe in Haywards Heath, in the centre, surrounded by some independent coffee shops, but mostly the big chains and all the rest of it. Yet, your coffee shop is always, it seems to be the most popular one.
We do better yield per square foot than the others, that's for sure.
Great. Okay, we'll get into the detail and we'll try and work out what it is that makes it so successful in due course. But first of all, what's the story? What's the background? Because you're an electrician as well. What led you? When did you start, and how did it come about?
I've been a caterer all my life, and I was one of the first franchisees for Domino's Pizza in the UK.
Okay.
And when we managed to sell our business, my wife and I went travelling around the world and discovered the coffee revolution happening.
Okay.
That was in 1996. And when we returned to the UK, we decided we wanted to do it. And things didn't develop as I wanted them to originally. I ended up working for Starbucks.
Oh, right, okay.
And so I don't come to the coffee shop business without much experience.
I see.
Done quite a lot of catering experience and specifically coffee experience.
Yeah.
And I was the area manager for the Southeast.
Oh, right, okay.
And I used to walk past the shop and I'd say to my wife, you know what? That would make a cracking coffee shop.
Where the current site is?
Where the site is.
Okay.
And, it had been manifestation of a body shop. It had been 2 different card shops, and none of them had stayed. But Sarah said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because it's not. We would be not a normal retail outlet. That's a very poor retail spot.
Yeah.
But for a destination coffee shop, it becomes very nice. You've got Marks, you've got other shops around.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we made an offer.
Yeah.
And they accepted it, and that was how it started. Our original name was going to be G's Cafe because we're Georges.
Okay.
But just before we opened, literally the week before we opened, a coffee shop opened in Ardingly called G's Cafe.
Oh, right, okay.
Which sort of scuppered us.
That plan.
So the name came up because we had bought 2 bay trees for the front door, and that's where
right.
it came from.
There you go. But it's now a very popular name, and no one ever knows where the. Well, I guess some regulars maybe know where the name originates from. But I always think, I guess it is a good spot, and it's always full of people, and there's good space outside. But it's also quite tucked away. It maybe doesn't get the footfall that it does on the main high street, where the big brands like Nero's and Costa Coffee are.
Huge difference in footfall.
So I imagine. Did it take a while to build up the numbers, or is it people make a very conscious choice to go there for their coffee rather than
I think
Nero's?
It's a place where people can feel a bit safer. If you're wanting to sit outside, and certainly in the summer, we have a very much larger portion of our business is the alfresco sitting. And it just is somewhere where you don't have the traffic. So if you've got children, you can sit outside and relax.
Yeah.
And one of my principles is on doing this business is that I don't advertise very much at all, but I invest in having numbers of staff. So when the Bay Tree has 8 members of staff on, you go to Costa and you might find they'll have 4.
Okay.
And Nero's might have 5 because it's a slightly bigger unit.
Yeah.
Your table gets cleared. Your coffee is delivered pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I believe that giving cracking service was what was going to be the difference.
Make people come back.
And they did. They still do. We have customers who come to us who've been coming for 21 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We have members of staff who've worked for us for 21 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the staff know the customers, and it's my view is, and my role is to make it a pleasant place for the people who I employ to work.
Yeah.
And if I do that, I've got a good chance they'll make it a pleasant place for my customers to be.
Definitely. I think whenever I'm in there, I think you can sense there's a decent atmosphere and people seem to enjoy working there despite it being busy. And now that I'm thinking back to the last couple of times I've been there, it has been, or it always is, there's a lot of people there, but at the same time the service is pretty quick. Whereas thinking to when you go to Nero or Costa Coffee, when they're busy, it might not be that quick. You have to wait longer in the queue.
Yes.
And the other thing that comes to mind as well is when I'm on that high street and I make the decision to go around the corner when I'm not necessarily going to be walking past the Bay Tree, but I think, well, I'd like a coffee and a cake or something. But I think that the quality is better at the Bay Tree than it is necessarily at the others, so that makes me walk around the corner, as it were. So I imagine that's probably the feedback that you get.
Certainly is. And the coffee as well is for me, to get that dead right and to be passionate about it and to understand why it's better is we have our coffee roasted by a little company in Ferring.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the South Coast Coffee Company. They've been doing it since we opened, and the same recipe. And it is absolutely different in how it's roasted compared to any of the chains. So
that comes from your own knowledge and passion developed over the years working
at
I mean,
Starbucks, it's when you start to enjoy something, you actually develop what is called a taste profile within your own palate. So regular Starbucks drinkers will probably not like my coffee. People who like my coffee will definitely not like a Starbucks coffee because the roast is so different.
Okay.
And it was a conscious decision of my wife and I that we would go for, rather than trying to sledgehammer the customer with a flavour that Starbucks go for, we go for a more dignified approach to our coffee. It's what is called a post-roast blend. So the three beans are separately roasted and then mixed. But you can go to any other of the premium high street brands. They all do a pre-roast blend. Oh, right. Okay. Everything is blended, roasted, and it's roasted normally to a hell of a lot higher temperature than we do. Yeah. So within a few degrees of spontaneous ignition, so it's almost carbon. Yeah. Okay. Whereas ours, if you come into ours, you'll actually be able to see the different colours. You'll be able to see the different beans in there. Okay. And it gives a very mellow, beautiful, smooth flavour with a wonderful crema.
So you had the suppliers in Ferring. Do you ever go to visit them, or you've had quite a lot of input into the process, so you don't totally leave them to it?
No, they're definitely better at it than I am. Yeah. So I'd rather leave them in charge of that. I go and visit. I like to take my team down and so they can see it. Yeah. See the passion that they have for their product as well, and that's a delight. If you have people on your side who have passion, and I got to say, Jonathan, you have people on your side who have passion. My lease is better because of you.
Oh, right.
So it's good to have. You can't do everything yourself, I've discovered in life, and it's good to have good people on your team.
Absolutely, yeah. Fingers crossed they stay.
Yes.
And then the food as well, cakes, sandwiches, all the rest of it. But again, that's what, in my own experience, what keeps me coming back. And is that made yourself on site or suppliers?
Again, we have a sort of an approach that is, if we can do it better, we'll do it ourselves.
Okay.
And so most of our cakes we make.
Okay.
The tray bakes we can't. We have a tiny kitchen. It's
I was thinking that would be the case, because like you think that I guess you can taste the difference between whether something's homemade or on site or whether it's been shipped.
And the difference is that we often have a case where a cake will be made in the morning and eaten by the afternoon. One of my ladies, Sam, who works for us for 21 years, she's very, very good at it. And she makes beautiful. Oh, right. If you want
lots of experience built up. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we just try to focus on what we can do that impacts a good result.
And again, I guess that points to the importance of loyalty and having the same team in place and people building up that experience over years.
Low staff turnover.
Yeah.
It really might cost you more on your labour cost because you end up having to pay more, but it definitely is a huge, important part of making a really good product.
Yeah.
Because if they've bought into the same ethos, we'll work so much better as a team because they're all pulling in the same direction.
Definitely.
And that is, and I delight in having youngsters come and work for us. And I generally say with the youngsters, we borrow them for a bit.
Okay.
Because they'll start with us and then do their GCSEs and then do A-levels and then hopefully go on to uni or to do something else.
So you get them starting at
16.
As young as 16?
Yeah.
And do you think that's good, or is it very much down to the character? You don't think they might be too young sometimes at that age? Customer service?
How we interview is we pay people to come for a job interview.
Oh, wow, okay.
They get paid for it. But it's a chance for my team to meet the person and my team to ask the questions. And it's the team that makes the decision.
Yeah.
And I've found that if that happens, they're far more ready to support a new person.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, it's
I've discovered that myself. It's not your fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're ready to say, well, I helped Chose. I better make sure she knows or he knows what to do.
Yeah.
So they do very much, and again, we on the whole keep them for 3 to 5 years, and that's for a youngster.
You were saying earlier about that you've got your other job, business as an electrician, and that's what you're up to this afternoon. But going back to the early days, was it in '96 when it started?
No, we started in 2003.
Oh, 2003.
Yeah. Atri was, if we're being fussy about it, 23rd of January 2003.
Okay. My maths is awful. I was trying to quickly do the calculation when you said the number of years you've been going. But so you've built the team, and you've got, it seems that's been a lot of thought into that, and people have been around a long time, which is great. That's what creates the business. But in the early days, how did you start off? Was it yourself and your wife working there, or did you straight away find people?
I advertised in the window, and we selected a group of people from quite a large amount of applicants. And we spent a few days training. One of the most delightful moments I had, and still sticks with me, I wanted to give the team an experience of being busy, and so we had each one done time on the coffee machine, for myself time on the food service area, time on the till, and just practicing. And then I thought, well, let's get some real people in. So we opened the doors and said, and we said, this is free, and just come in and have a cup of coffee.
Okay.
And it was so funny that the customers just refused. They just said, no, I want to pay.
Oh, right. Okay.
They kept getting the money out and just putting the cash on them. Good old days when there was lots of cash about.
Yeah.
And putting the cash on. So, no, you're having the money. And we well, no, this is free. This is us practicing. No, it's not. You can't give it away. It's nothing. That's nonsense. And so we thought, okay, well, let's get the till drawer out.
Oh, right. Okay.
Popped it in, and so middle of the morning on the 23rd of January, we went live, not having anticipated it. And it wasn't until the next morning that the mayor then turned up and officially opened us.
Oh, right. Okay, great. So it seems like everything was it was a great start. And
Yes,
did you have any sort of trading difficulties, issues, particularly in the early days when you've got all the upfront costs and trying to make a profit?
I didn't do this for hobby, and I came to it with a lot of experience. And I'd done an experience with Domino's before where I was undercapitalized, and it was a very, very difficult trading thing. I used to work 100 hours a week plus sometimes to try and keep the business going. I used to have the bank call me in the mornings to say, what are you banking today?
Yeah,
we've got these checks being presented. We need to, it was very difficult. So I was determined that I was going to control right from the start. So we went into it with a very, with a lot more experience, and my suppliers were and still are negotiated with, and they still kept honest with me. And that's important. And my manager Sally has been with me for 21 years, and she's absolutely, I would almost say, fanatical about cost management, because she realizes that there's a perception that people come in and see a pot of tea for £2.60. Well, I can tell you now that the tea bag and the milk to make that tea costs 5p. So how can this? You must own at least three properties in the south of France. Well, it's not true. It's a very tight margin business, catering. Yeah. And when you're sitting down for a pot of tea, which is our best margin product, it's still so many other costs that are going into it, and the biggest one is our labour cost. Yeah. And of the turnover, after I've paid my VAT, which is already 20% of that £2.60 is gone. Yeah. It's not ours. It belongs to the government.
Yeah, always important to remember that.
Yeah. And once you've then done that, you then pay your labour. Yeah. Which is with all the changes in the approach to minimum wage. I've never wanted to be a minimum wage payer, so we try and be competitive in all the age groups. Yeah. So our labour cost is just over 40%. So
of turnover,
net turnover. That's after the VAT is taken out. So it is a tight margin business, and then of course you've helped me keep my rent down.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, yeah. So
that's always important.
The rent rate service charge accounts for another £50,000 a year.
And going back to that figure you're mentioning about that's something I've been thinking about as well recently. I haven't had to think about it too much before. So I guess that would be the gross salary wage costs as a proportion of turnover. And you mentioned 40% for your business. Do you know what would be common in the industry? A cost
around 32.
Oh, right, okay.
We again, I don't pay a penny for advertising. But what I do is if you come into my shop, I will try to impress you with great quality, great service. And the next customer who comes won't find your debris left on the table. Yeah. It'll be cleared. Yeah. And I have a few regulars, and one of the customers said, well, the reason why I don't go to Nero's is because it is a bit of a battlefield on a Sunday morning. Yeah. 1 hour in, and every table has debris on it. Yeah. And I just, that's the way they choose to run the business. It's a different way.
They try and more minimise their staff costs. So with Nero's, do you know what it would be? Would it be 30%? They wouldn't disclose that information, I guess.
And also what I want to do is focus on what I do. And if what I do provides me with enough, that's what I want to do. It's not about what other people do. Yeah. To be honest, I did start my business. I said my goal originally was that I wanted to have better service than Starbucks, The system is very clever. It's the way it's very ergonomically designed to be quick service. Better coffee than Nero.
Yeah.
Because of the high street change, I believe Nero's is a very, very nice coffee. And better food than Pratt.
Okay.
So on the cake side, I think I do. My sandwiches sometimes, but I have such a tiny space to work in.
Yeah, is that kitchen round the
kitchen in our back is 6 foot wide by 8 foot.
Are you ever in the kitchen yourself? Or?
I can do it all.
Okay.
Yeah. We make our scones. We start on a Friday morning and a Saturday morning. We start at 5 in the morning.
Oh, crikey!
We're there making scones and the pastries and then the cakes. And the first team members in getting the cafe set up, and then the cakes are being made.
Yeah.
So basically, once a cake is halfway through, we're making the next one.
So you mentioned earlier about how important it is the staff and the service and everything, and then therefore you don't have to spend any money on advertising. So I was going to ask, one of the other questions was, what do you do for marketing? Do you do anything?
We've been very, very poor. I've got a website which sort of struggles along that my wife and I, mainly my wife does. And I have one of my team members helps with some of the more modern stuff on
the social media.
The social media side.
Is there a Facebook account, Instagram?
Facebook
TikTok
and Instagram. And
that's
Instagram a bit. And we're doing something at the moment, mainly focused through the Instagram page, which is one of our girls is from Ukraine. And she, with the other members of the staff, developed a new hot chocolate. And we've decided that that hot chocolate was going to be called the Chocolina.
Oh, right.
Her name is Lena.
Oh, right. Nice. Yeah.
And it's a coconut chocolate. And we're actually, anything we take for the Chocolina, we're giving to a charity that Lena works with down in Brighton.
Okay. I think I saw there was an article. Yeah, so that must have been on social media or in the press that I saw that. Or
social media.
Yeah, okay.
So she's just, and it's nice. We've had one customer came in and said, look, I don't drink chocolate, but how many members of staff are working today? And there are 5 on. So I'm buying you all a Chocolina.
Oh, right, great. Okay, very nice.
So, that's just such a lovely touch for people to do.
Yeah.
And also for me, being a complete Luddite when it comes to social media stuff, gives me confidence that, wow, people actually look.
Right. Yeah. So you wouldn't use it yourself, but so it surprises you. Oh my God, somebody's actually spending their time on Facebook or Instagram and liking this stuff. Yeah.
It blows me away that because I just spend so little time looking at it. So, but other people don't. So they obviously take a lot of pleasure from it. So.
Yeah. Great. And so you've got like one site. There isn't another coffee shop.
I did have plans on it when I had my business plan to work on, and I was going to open more. And maybe because I was stung when I had my previous business, I went from one store being very profitable.
That was when you were the franchise.
Yeah. I went from one profitable store to 2 break-even stores.
Okay.
And that becomes quite painful.
Yeah.
If you take your focus on something, take it away, if you've got too much happening, you lose focus.
Yeah.
And I'm very good with customer service. I'm very good with training staff. What I'm not very good with is multitasking the management side of, and I just shied away from shops. I looked at a site in Lewis, which we I would say thankfully we're gazumped on by Nero's, which is a site opposite the courtroom. So I know
that well. My mother lives down one of the streets by the side. Yeah.
Nice.
So I've been to that often over the years.
Yeah, I go past. I think, wow, but they paid more than double what I had offered.
Oh crikey! Wow.
So that's up to them.
Yeah.
And the site in where Costa is in Burgess Hill, I looked at that, and before Costa had come along. But again, Costa came along and offered a lot more than I was prepared to pay. And so I sort of got cold feet about maybe just put my arms around what I knew.
Yeah, because of the previous experience with Domino's as well. You're thinking, if you hadn't had that previous experience, would you think you would have been more gung ho?
So, I'm a bit older.
So you know the things that can go wrong, or how much harder it is to go from 1 to 2. And
when you've got a problem in 2 places, you can only fix one of them.
Yeah,
it's that's what I found when I had and it was hard. And if the dishwasher breaks, I can fix the dishwasher. If the till goes, I know most of the things that can affect that.
Okay.
If a member of staff calls in sick, I can generally juggle things to be able to support the team.
Yeah.
But if you've got more than one, you can't be in 2 places at one time.
People say that running a coffee shop type business is very much if you acquire a business like that, it's very much to work in the business. It's very difficult to then just be completely hands off and let the existing team or employ people to run. So, but it sounds like you're despite doing other things and not being there every day, you're still quite hands-on. You're still involved every day doing various tasks.
I wouldn't say every day, but I'm certainly contact every day. I'm there, but it's also having the trust in the people you appoint is to do the job. If you don't trust them, then it'll go 2 ways. They won't trust you. When Sally makes a decision, I say to her, make the decision. Don't be afraid. If it's wrong, we'll discuss it later and say, why it could be different. But at least have a go. Yeah. And I got to say that 95% of the time they're right.
Yeah.
Because they are, just like me, somebody who works in a coffee shop. So if they see something that they can do better,
they will know.
They go, oh, why didn't we do that? We're very blessed with some very special people that work for us. And the thing that makes it very different is that they are, the Baytree has a wide range of customers from babies to real grandpas, and the dignity and respect that my team pay to everybody is the best part of what I get out of it.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. It's easy to make a good cup of coffee. Kendricks, who make ours, sell it to a lot of other people, and they make good cups of coffee. But where we stand out is our customer service and our people service, because they're not just customers; they're often friends.
Yeah,
and that I think shows.
And how? What do you think are the main things you've learned over the years on how to manage people, build and motivate a team? And particularly, it sounds quite unusual, from what I know anyway, or think I know from a coffee shop type business, to have people working with you that length of time. I imagine other businesses like that have a higher turnover of staff. So I was interested to know what do you think are the main things that you've learned in that respect, or that's been successful for you?
Just make it a pleasant place to work, that people feel valued, and also they value me. That's amazing. The protection. I was doing my electrical job. I hurt my back. And the team pulled together so strongly to support, when I was off sick for 3 weeks. There just was not a problem. It was pleasant to see that they seemed quite happy when I returned.
Okay,
but
always nice to know. Yeah,
but and that, if I can have an environment where it's a 2-way street, and that they like being there and I like them being there.
Yeah,
it's there's not a single member of staff who who I wouldn't take home for dinner.
Great.
Nice people.
Yeah.
And that was something that my dad used to say: is that when you're employing somebody, just would you like to have this person for home for dinner?
Do you do any sort of events or anything to engender that type of culture?
Well, we do a bit of, we have a couple of parties a year, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the team go out without us. My wife and I get left out all the time.
Okay.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
But, we try and be as positive with community events. We give lots and lots of prizes away, to all the local schools. If they're doing raffles, we'll give them raffle prizes. And, little goodie bags with vouchers and cookies and
community outreach.
That sort of thing. It's just to keep doing it. Many years ago, my son had leukemia, and the support again when that happened from the team, and then we did charity events, and unbelievable the amount of money and the generosity of people. It's just extraordinary. And they still ask about my son. They still ask, and he's now off at university doing very well. So,
oh, great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's about people. People are what make the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how are you, I was going to touch on the fact that you've got your electrician job business on. How has that come about, and how have you managed to juggle that alongside?
Again, juggling it is quite a challenge. But the reason why I did it was I used to think one day, possibly the landlord will do the dirty on me and allow Starbucks to open in the shop opposite. And that would kind of scupper the plan. But, I'd always done DIY, and I signed up to a course and took a 6-month sabbatical out of the business and did that, and became a qualified electrician, and now with the NIC, and I do anything from small house rewires to fixing an oven.
Wow. And so that keeps you busy most days?
Yeah, try and do 3 to 4 days a week in electrics, and 1 to 2 in the shop. At the moment, recently I've been doing a lot more in the shop, but it's you have to just go back in sometimes, just not to crack a whip, but just to make sure that standards are being adhered to. In a small business, one of the greatest challenges you have is a thing that is called skills dilution. And that is that I teach you, and when you teach the next person, one tiny bit is missed. When that person is teaching the next person, 2 tiny bits are missed. And then I turn up and go, what on earth is that person doing? So it's just to make sure that the consistency of training is there.
Yeah, you've got to really stay on top
of
those
just
standards.
A little
make
reset.
sure nothing slips. Yeah. So you've always got your eye on those details, I guess, to make sure that everyone's.
If you go
into
right my shop, and you want to order a cappuccino, everybody's got to make it the same.
Okay.
And if you're we've got the new cortado, and it's my favorite drink at the moment, but everybody's got to make it the same.
Okay.
And it's so easy to do it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to make it not a cortado. But if you have the commitment to doing it right, it will be right. And that's, you just got to make sure they understand the principles of why each step is done at that time to make it. If it's done A, B, C, it'll look like that. But if it's done C, B, A, it won't. You've got to do the steps in the right order.
And looking back, now that you've got this great sort of history and it's such an established business, everyone just thinks of it as a success. But are there any particular mistakes that you look back on that you made over the years that you thought, well, if I knew that now, then I would have done it differently? Or
no, you just learn little lessons on the way. And my first menu didn't have any paninis on it. We had 2. It was many more sandwiches and a lot less toasties. It's actually, we sell 10 times more toasties than than a sandwich.
Oh, wow, okay.
We tried a product. We did a pate and pita platter, and in the summertime it worked quite well. But when I actually did my cost analysis on it, and when you look at the salad that goes on and the amount of return from your pate, it's quite an expensive product up front. People don't want to pay £7.50 for it.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's at £7.50, which gives you the margin, they stop buying it.
Yeah.
So let's not do it.
Yeah.
The thing I learned was that if it takes me longer than 3 minutes to make, we don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things go into making those decisions about what you're gonna sell.
So if you come in at lunchtime and you want your coffee and a toastie, you want it at lunchtime. You don't want to be waiting until later.
Yeah.
And so that's why everything that we try and do, we try and streamline it so that it's a simple process.
Yeah.
And that we can consistently deliver that.
Yeah. And what your experience with Domino's and big brands like that, do you think that helped come up with all these processes and be very detailed orientated?
Every step is examined. And when I worked for Starbucks as an area manager, I was involved in an analysis of how many paces behind the bar, and so how wide the bars were.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If the bars were, what we found was that you didn't need to have the bigger bars. You could do the same volume from a lot less space.
Okay.
And when you have two people working the coffee machine, when it's very busy, you do need that. And it's how you train them so that there's no position swapping. So it literally just moves down. It's a real, that's, to me, is the fun bit.
Yeah.
It's the fun bit is making sure that, because anybody who thinks catering is a way to riches and it's a tight margin business that has to be managed on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it, as an owner, more intellectually stimulating.
Yeah.
It's not just the pleasure of being there with nice people and serving nice coffee and having some amazing customers come to us so regularly.
Yeah.
It's actually the studying of how you put it to the bottom line.
Yeah, and then that hopefully then obviously then comes out in the financial results, and then I've got all of those things right and mixed it all together in the right way.
Yes, I mean it's I wouldn't do it if it didn't make us a bit of money, but it certainly is. I'm afraid to say I've got to admit to this, that I've taught both my children. I've said, work hard at school and don't do catering.
I think everyone says that, no matter what they do or how successful, they always tell their kids to do something else. I've done, do something else. So,
but it's great fun. It's very rewarding. But I think there could be other ways to bring the bread home.
Yeah, but everyone's got their own journey, and you never know what whether it's your kids, whoever else, what skills they might they might develop over time, and then that leads them to making a decision of what to pursue, whether it's a career or working for themselves or whatever the industry might be. But so sort of finally, we're talking about work all the time, but we're work-life balance and trying to running a business, whatever it might be, it's very easy just to find yourself doing more and more and more and never switching off. There's always more things to do, and there's always the stress and anxiety. If you don't do everything, then problems will be created, and you can find yourself working long hours and all the rest of it, which is common to many business owners. Do you find you struggle with that yourself, or have you been quite disciplined?
I try to be disciplined, but recently, no. My wife describes it, I suffer from yes-itis. So my manager and I decided I was going to go back into the business and do the training and stuff, and then get calls of, I've got an emergency in my house. A good friend of mine who's a plumber discovered that a house had gone, it had a leak, and it leaked over some electrics, and they've discovered there was a massive fault. Actually, it was quite dangerous. So I had to replan and do things and work weekends to try and fix it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm suddenly find, and Sarah said, well, you do realise you've now done 13 days on the trot without a break. So
Yeah.
no wonder you're tired.
Yeah.
On the whole, I am very disciplined with my team. I do not want them to work extra overtime. That means I'm not providing enough support for them. They haven't got enough team members.
Yeah.
And it should apply to me too. So on the whole, I do have a very nice time. It's catering, so I'm 7 days a week. So I have to put in my times at the weekend, so that my wife knows she works 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. So some weekends it's she'll have to find some amusement on her own rather than with me during the day. But that's what it's been for 21 years.
But then you find the time to take time off during the week.
Yeah. And that's quite nice because it's generally everything's less busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do that sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Well, great. I mean, thank you. I think we better wrap it up there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and pleasure to chat. Really interesting finding out about the business.
I've been charmed by your inquisition of me, but I was just saying that my very short relationship with your business is that you've now established me with a better lease than I've ever had.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So thank you very much.
I'll let Liam know and Emily as well.
Emily
I think
as well.
They've
done a very good job.
Fantastic. Well, that's good to know. Hopefully we can keep doing more of that commercial property work.
Yes, well, definitely. I would not hesitate to recommend your services.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Thank you.